Welcome back to the Thinking Talk, our video podcast series from the Martin Center. Today, we are joined by Skander Nasra, Member of Cabinet, Senior Advisor to Enlargement Commissioner Marta Kos, to discuss the European Commission's 2025 Enlargement Communication and the latest progress reports. This year's communication arrives at a crucial moment. Enlargement has re-emerged as one of the EU's key strategic priorities. It reflects both renewed political will and growing awareness of challenges ahead, from institutional preparedness to maintaining credibility and support among citizens. Dear Skander, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
You have been closely involved in shaping 2025 enlargement package. From your perspective, does it strike a right balance between ambition and realism? And are the Commission's recommendations strong enough to maintain the momentum of enlargement within the candidate countries, but also in the European Union?
Well, I think the balancing point of these reports are definitely on the side of realism. It will not come as a surprise that we believe that the reports are really reflective of what is happening on the ground in the 10 candidate countries. The reports reflect a year long of work of thousands of people in the Commission, but also of our colleagues in the delegations in the countries concerned. And they're really based on those objective data. So we see clearly areas where the 10 countries progress, but we don't shy away of also highlighting the areas where no or not enough progress has been made, or in certain countries where we have seen a real backsliding. So the level of ambition, of course, is there, but it's mostly at the side of our candidates, and that is the background in which indeed the reports need to be seen. Half of the candidates have put forward very clear timings, targets, which they want to finalize the negotiations with the European Commission, and we assess those timelines as well. 4 out of the 5. Have been progressing against their own timeline, or measured by their own timelines in a credible manner. They are on track, but the ambition, of course, fully resides with the candidates. And from that perspective, also the conclusions and the recommendations for the year to come really pinpoint on the crucial areas, both for those who set high ambitions for themselves, but also those countries where we see real issues and struggles, hurdles to move forward.
Indeed, you mention high ambitions that are reflected in the Commission package. For instance, we see that for certain countries, Montenegro is aiming to finalize its negotiation chapters, accession chapters 2026, Albania 2027, Ukraine, Moldova 2028. So this is rather ambitious timelines, right? And I think that the key question here, also our viewers are interested in hearing, what does it mean in practice? Does it mean that the European Union will realistically enlarge by 2030?
Well, the first question is, are we doing it right? And are we making sure that the candidate countries really comply with the acquis and with the objectives that are put forward by our member states? The countries that you mentioned have indeed put forward very high level of ambition. Is it credible? It depends in the first place on those countries themselves and the leadership with which they are pursuing those targets. Looking back at the past year, we have assessed that those objectives and those ambitions are credible, measured by what they have done on the ground the past year. For those 4 countries that you mentioned, but the road for some of them is still very long, and so we will see how that progresses, and indeed how credible those ambitions are. That's on the technical side, the work of the candidates. But you already pointed it. There is also political reality in our member states, in the Council. I think all in all, we see that the commitment taken by our member states is followed through. But there are, of course, issues, and it is a constant work, it's a constant engagement. It is not easy for our member states. I mean, enlargement is a complex process where it is not easy to give straight and clear answers. It also often touches on issues that go well beyond enlargement. So not all of the concerns of our member states or parts of our population linked to enlargement are be able to address through enlargement. So that makes it a difficult process, a complex process, but we are moving forward, and the reports also clearly point out the tangible progress we achieved in the candidate countries, but also in the Council and with the support of all 27.
Skander, what about the pre-enlargement policy reviews that we have been also waiting for? It because the perhaps most important question is about the policy impact. What kind of impact will enlargement bring on certain policy areas, and what are the key reforms that the European Union should embody in order to make fit enlargement?
Yeah. So the pre-accession reviews are indeed the flip side of the work that we're doing and of the enlargement reports. They are currently in full preparation, and they will indeed make a comprehensive assessment of where we stand at the moment in terms of policies, in terms of budget, in terms of our structures, but also in our capacity to uphold our core values and principles, especially as we enshrined in Article 2 of the treaty. That report will also give the view of the Commission of what can be done, should be done, and where we feel that we are in a good spot as we are moving forward. The report should also, and the review should also provide facts-based baseline of discussion for member states. It's clear that not all candidate countries present an equal impact to the functioning of the Union. A number of countries, and you mentioned a few of them that have the highest ambition and that could realistically join the European Union in the next years, have a relatively small demographic, budgetary or socioeconomic footprint. But it is true that in certain other areas, especially those affected or falling under the unanimity rules, it doesn't really matter how big or small a country is. And so those topics will be looked at, will be addressed, and it will be up to member states to have that discussion.
You mentioned the member states, and you also mentioned that this enlargement indeed is a complex and constant process of engagement and negotiations. And here I would like to ask about the institutional preparedness of the European Union. You mentioned already the unanimity, and also we are hearing vetoes, and certain member states are not perhaps fully convinced of enlargement. So what do you think, whether or not the Union will need to reform itself, especially when it comes to the unanimity rule, and what can be the advantages but also disadvantages in this respect?
So it's clear that unanimity makes the processes more difficult at times. It of course also ensures the full backing of member states in certain sensitive areas such as fiscal policy or foreign and security policy. From the Commission perspective, of course, we look at the efficiency of where we can move forward, and we will come with recommendations on how we see this, especially when you would move to a union of 30 or more member states. But it is really a discussion and an evaluation for member states to make. They need to, in full transparency, also make up their mind and also assess how the needs, geopolitical needs as well, to stabilize our continent on the one hand, to use enlargement as a tool to really take that responsibility for our own security on our own continent, how that balances out with other concerns, including those linked to the decision-making processes and unanimity in particular. We've done a survey at the Commission across the 27 member states on how enlargement is being looked at. And there are various concerns in different member states, but one specific point that comes back in all of our member states is indeed the concern about the capacity for the Union to take decisions, not just take decisions, but also take them in a timely manner, in a swift manner. So it is likely going to be one of the most central topics of discussion that will absolutely need to be tackled if we want to address the concerns among our member states, but also our citizens seriously.
In the enlargement package, I saw a separate heading about the importance of strategic communication and engagement with the citizens. And this is my last question about the legitimacy of enlargement. How this legitimacy should be strengthened among the eyes of the EU citizens. Here at the Martin Center, for instance, we have developed a number of studies, also with Ipsos, that underlines importance of engagement with the citizens, and that it is true that a majority of the citizens are not well informed about the benefits, also not only about procedures, but also in general about the enlargement process as such. So do we need to have more open debate and direct engagement of citizens? And if so, how?
So the positive news is that we see a clear shift in European public opinion when it comes to enlargement. 10 years ago, we had a 39% support rate on an aggregate level on all 28 member states. Today, that number has risen to 57%. It's clear that the war in Ukraine and the awareness of our citizens of the security dimension of what we are doing in Europe and what it also means in our candidates plays a big factor. And so that is encouraging to see that there is a broad understanding and a support to move forward with enlargement. The downside is that the support is very unevenly spread across our member states. You have a number of member states where it's below 50%, the number of member states where it's well above 70, 75, and some even above 80%. And that is indeed an issue we need to look at. Communication is part of the answer. You mentioned that many of our citizens, according to our assessment, it's up to 2/3 of the population doesn't have or feels uninformed or not sufficiently informed about enlargement. That is clearly a problem and that needs to be addressed. But it's not only communication that will sort out the legitimacy angle of the discussion. We will have to have real answers to the concerns. For some, it is linked to illegal migration, to organized crime. Others, there's more fears related to socioeconomic models and the protection of those. And for others, it's our ability to uphold the respect for rule of law, democratic values in our union, and decision-making rules, as we already discussed. So before launching into such a communication exercise, we will need to make up our mind and have clear answers to those issues and real answers. That will absolutely be critical. But the basis is not bad. We have a good starting point, especially compared to 10, 15 years ago. But there is a lot of work that still needs to be done.
Thank you very much, dear Skander, for joining us and for this insightful discussion. Thank you very much, our viewers, and stay tuned for our next episodes.